Greetings everyone, Melderon here in another Defcamp Melderon TV video. So with the title and the thumbnail, you're probably aware that we're going to be talking about the Burning Crusade. Melderon, why are we talking about the Burning Crusade when we just completed MC and we're going to get BWL in about a couple weeks? Is it too soon to talk about this topic? I don't think so, and here's my reasons why. We're going to get BWL here in February. That means we're likely going to get AQ, in my opinion, sometime in the summer. When I'd be very surprised we went an entire year without bringing out Nax. So if Nax is brought out at the end of 2020 this year, I would be not surprised at all if the launch of Burning Crusade will be announced at BlizzCon in 2020. And if it is, we're probably going to get TBC in the middle of 2021. Why do I think it's important to talk about now is because I think the success of Classic, the continual success of Classic, of course, is losing subscribers, and of course, it's not as big as it was at launch, and that's totally fine. But I think it would not be prudent for Blizzard to not bring this game out. From a financial standpoint, TBC was much more popular than Classic, and that's because, of course, the subscriber numbers were growing, but it's well known in the community that TBC is everyone's favorite, quote-unquote. It seems like to be the most favorite of the expansions. I'm kind of torn on that topic, but I do think TBC is very important to bring out because it's the next natural progression in the true MMO existence, right? So MMOs today, in my opinion, are not good. I don't like retail at all. I think it's not an MMO. I think it's a single-player action RPG that has multiplayer elements, and I believe that bringing out TBC will just be a huge boon to the gaming industry and our social conscious about MMOs. And it's just a great game. It's a great game in so many ways. We're going to talk about that in a second, but I want you to remember yourself, if you ever played TBC, walking through that dark portal for the first time, seeing those demons attacking the dark portal, both the Horde and Alliance trying to fend them off, seeing the beauty of Hellfire Peninsula, even though it's a dark place filled with demons, just the cosmos above you, those strands of the twisting nether, floating rocks. It, to me, is so, it just screams amazing fantasy, right? And think about the first time you saw Shatrath City, the first time you walked into the Grand, the beauty there, the music, all the RPG elements, the fantasy elements. Yes, we did go into a little bit more of a space feeling, but man, the core fantasy was still there. It was a perfect mix between sci-fi and fantasy, in my opinion. And I do believe that with the schedule we're looking at now and how fast Classic is being rolled out, my bet is BlizzCon 2020, they're going to announce TBC. That means a lot for the community, but that means also a lot for the gaming industry at large. I don't think it's too soon to talk about it, and I don't think it's too soon to think about the implications of this game coming out, both on the content creator aspect of things and on the community side. Classic Plus, real quick, we'll talk about that now. Do I think Classic Plus is a good idea? Absolutely. Do I think that the current Blizzard development team has both the time, energy, and talent, let's be honest, to bring out Classic Plus in a way that will do justice to the Classic feeling or philosophy? I don't think so. Outside of that, it's going to cost a lot more money to build new dungeons, new raids, new zones, future class balancing. I just don't think there's just too much variables there. Would I like to see it? Yes. Would I like to see both? That would be optimal. The optimal scenario for me would be rotating Classic servers, going back to MC to Nax, back to MC to Nax in perpetuity, and Burning Crusade servers and Classic Plus. That to me would be the most amazing thing in the world. And I would never play another game for the rest of my life, honestly. But I don't think that's happening. I don't think that will happen. I do think they're going to keep Classic servers rotating, going from fresh to Nax. But I think releasing TBC is just a huge thing that will bring a lot of players back who didn't want to come back for Classic. TBC has this mystique that is indescribable, really. It's has so many elements that make many players want to play and continue playing. I think it's just way more likely to see TBC come out after Nax. And if Nax does come out in late 2020, early 2021, it'll have enough time for people to clear it, unlike when it came out live, where there was only a few months and most guilds didn't even enter it, let alone kill bosses, and a very, very small percentage of people actually cleared it. So I think that's great, and I think TBC coming out in mid-2021 to third quarter 2021 would be optimal. Why can't I wait for TBC? Well, there's exploration. The zones are amazing, every single one of them. Shadow Moon Valley, Netherstorm, Blade's Edge Mountains, the Grand, Terrakar. They're just... and Hellfire. They're just amazing, and they're so different from each other. Oh, and Zangarmarsh. God, how could I forget Zangarmarsh? They're so different from each other, and they're just... The theme of each zone is just so unique, unlike in Classic, where I feel like a lot of things are recycled, and that's totally fine. There's a lot of beauty in Classic. It's one of the most beautiful games ever made. But there's just a stark difference between them, and you go right into the narrative of that zone. Storytelling is absolutely amazing, and it really makes you just sink into your character and sink into the fantasy. The music... Right now you're hearing the Eversong Woods soundtrack beneath me, and if you've never played a Blood Elf, I don't care if you like them or not, you need to experience those zones. The Ghostlands and Eversong Woods are absolutely amazing. The Journey side of things are not as good in my opinion. They're still great. Music of Blood Mist and Azure Mist Isles are also just phenomenal, but the music really captivated me when I was playing. And I feel like that's when I really fell in love with this game, was during the Burning Crusade. Again, Classic for me was pretty quick. It was basically leveling, and I didn't really understand endgame mechanics that well, and I loved it. It got me hooked, but I fell in love in TBC. The raiding experience is... Black Temple, what an amazing raid. What an amazing designed raid. The music in the background as it goes up and down. It's phenomenal. SSC, all those raids before too. Karazhan. And then finally, with the Sunwell, it's just, the raids were just so well done. And raiding itself was better. Mechanics were more sound. Classes had more defined roles. It was just an amazing thing. We'll go into class balancing real quick. A lot of classes got huge boosts to their capabilities, and the class balancing actually, I think, has been the best class balancing since the game came out and any subsequent expansion. Every class felt important. Every class had something they could do well, regardless of them being a hybrid or not. And it still felt right. To the point where it wasn't balanced, to the point where it's so close, you still felt those core roles, those almost Dungeon and Dragon-like core RPG roles were still alive and well, while still having excellent class balancing. Very, very important. Another thing is Arena. Arena, as a non-PvPer, as someone who's not really into PvP that much, I do love PvP, but Arena was a way for me to delve into it in a way that I didn't feel fully committed. Battlegrounds are much longer. Arena was a way for me to get into a skirmish, learn my class from PvP perspective much better, and if you're into ranking, it's just an amazing way to rank. The rewards, the armored nether drakes, all those things were just phenomenal, and I think that Arena is a welcome addition to the game. Also, probably the most important pro about TBC from a content creator's perspective is that there's still such a lack of major insight into the meta. There are private servers, of course, for TBC. However, I feel like the amount of theory crafting that's been done for TBC pales in comparison to what was done for Classic WoW. And that's very important. I would like to go back into TBC in a state of almost clean slate when it comes to understanding the meta. And I feel like content creators really need to think about what's more important leading up to TBC. Is it just promoting the game, or is it theory crafting it to death, or bringing up guides? And honestly, I love making guides, and a lot of you guys subscribe to this channel for my guides. But I'm going to take a serious step back from that if TBC is announced. And I think it will be. Because I think that we're going to get a lot more enjoyment out of things if we're going into the game somewhat blind. Of course, we're not 100% blind. A lot of the things we learned from Classic is still viable in TBC, especially leveling. But I believe that endgame and Arena creates so much open experimentation, and experimentation is what makes a good game. The reason why games like RPGs are so popular is because it leaves so much room for experimentation, and I want to do that again. I want to experiment. I want to try different classes out. I want to take my shaman into TBC, feel out the differences of elemental, resto with earth shield, and all these amazing abilities again, and really just delve into the game itself. So I think it's very important for content creators to consider what's the most important thing, and I think that's promoting the game and showing the love of how amazing the game really is proceeding up to launch, instead of worrying about what's the best this, what's the best that. Do I think that people are going to listen? Of course not. I think there's going to be a lot of guides going up to TBC, but I feel like a lot of content creators will read guides or talk to someone and just form a guide or a video based upon secondhand experience. Whereas with Classic, we had so much first-hand experience thanks to the popular private servers. And another thing, we don't know how accurate those TBC private servers were. So I think it's very important to kind of take a step back from that, and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to focus more on promoting TBC, promoting the beautiful zones, the lore, and all these things, instead of trying to min-max it to death. Will I still make guides for Shaman? Absolutely, because Shaman's my thing, but they're going to be focused more on how to optimize your experience over optimizing the gameplay itself. And that's something that I want to really focus on. Real quick, some cons about TBC. There are a few, but they can be very important. Flying mounts is an obvious one. Killing world PvP in a way that it just not feels organic anymore. And, you know, things like Hala were there to stimulate world PvP, but I think it's pretty much dead on arrival with TBC. Of course, it'll happen during the Leavenly experience, and that's great. People will still sack cities, and, you know, that'll cause world PvP skirmishes, so that's wonderful and that's great, but being able to fly away kind of kills a lot of that. And for those of you that want flying mounts removed from the game, the thing you have to realize is that the maps and zones were designed with flying in mind. That will not happen. Flying mounts will still be in TBC because they would have to redesign the game, and that's not going to happen. Another downside for me is Paladins on the Horde and Shamans on the Alliance. I realize that's a huge improvement for a lot of people, but I think faction pride was so important in Classic WoW, and that's something we won't experience past Classic. Faction pride is the most prominent in Classic because of the fact that you have faction-specific classes. And if I had one change, that would be actually my one change. That's more important to me than the flying mounts. And then the last con, is that some of the idiosyncrasies that we fell in love with, the charm of vanilla, is somewhat removed. Those odd items, world buffs, even though I'm not a fan of world buffs, but a lot of those wonky little idiosyncrasies about Classic are minimized in TBC as we have better class balancing. We have removal of some of the engineering pieces and stuff like that, or they're less prominent, and they're still there. I just think it's reduced, right? So those are like the cons of TBC to me. In all, I believe that bringing out Burning Crusade after Classic is both important and it's also just logical for Blizzard. The game is just so popular, and it, to me, even though I love Classic the best out of all the expansions, is the most perfect iteration of World of Warcraft that's ever been made. And because of that, I just can't wait to be there. I'm enjoying Classic. I'm progressing with my guild. We're going to clear all the content. I'm going to enjoy the most of it as I possibly can, but I'm looking forward to TBC because there's still so much unexplored territory. And I hope that unexplored territory does not get significantly reduced by content creators, theory crafters, and guide makers. We'll see. But I want to know in the comments what you think. Are you looking forward to TBC, number one? Number two, do you think it'll come out at all? And if so, when? And I'd like to know your favorite part of TBC, whether that be PvP, the zones, the lore, the music, the class balancing. What was the most important thing for you? And I think for most of you, it's going to be a multifaceted answer, right? All of those things were my favorite thing. I can't wait to go in the Black Temple. I can't wait to go back into Karazhan. I cannot wait to go back into the Grand. And I look forward to it every day. And I really hope that Blizzard takes it seriously and brings us the Burning Crusade. And if Classic Plus is a thing too, let's give us both. That would be amazing. But from an MMO perspective, I think it'll really push people to think about, what makes an MMO important. And the role-playing aspects are those things, not mounts, not collectibles. Those are the most important things. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Keep on keybinding and grinding. Let me know in the comments what you think. And as always, just have a good time in Classic Azeroth. Take it easy.